By convention, an opera begins with an instrumental number while the curtain is still down, and we call this an overture. The overture to The Marriage of Figaro begins without a slow introduction. It's in sonata allegro form, as most overtures are, and its first theme well portrays the states of mind that we all associate with a wedding day, combining a certain anxious bustling. I can just picture some mother-in-law scurrying from table to table, making sure the centerpieces are just right. Combining that with the pomp and the grandeur that we also associate with weddings. Hear that? That is anticipatory harmony that's going to resolve to hear a new key, and we'll hear the second subject. Now, compared to Haydn, Mozart is prodigal with his melodies. Mozart is one of the great melodists of Western music, like Tchaikovsky. He's got so many great tunes in his head, he doesn't have enough compositions to put them in. So while Haydn likes to get the most from the least, while Haydn likes to see just how much he can develop, how much he can extract from a few elemental ideas like a cadence or a catchy tune, Mozart likes to give us many melodies. He might give us 3 or 4 or 5 melodies in an exposition. Haydn, by contrast, sometimes will write a sonata allegro movement with only one melody. You'll hear the same melody in the second key that you heard in the first. I think I told you about that a week ago or so, the so-called monothematic sonata allegro movement. Mozart never writes a monothematic sonata allegro movement. That's a missed opportunity. And here in the second key, A major, Mozart gives us not just one, not just 2, but 3 themes, all of which I believe contribute to this portrait of the states of mind that we associate with a wedding day. That this whole sense of nervousness continues in a pounding melody. Somebody's heart is skipping beat. And then there's a melody which in the big handout I described as a surge, like a surge of adrenaline. We have both a version in the low instruments and then there's a version in the high instruments, as if we get both a male version of nerves and a female version of nerves. But then finally, what is a wedding without something lovely and graceful and feminine? And so the last melody of the exposition here, I've labeled in my diagram as pretty. Let's listen now to the rest of the exposition. I'll back it up a few seconds so you can hear that anticipatory harmony. What do we expect to happen when the exposition ends? Do you remember? That's right. The exposition repeats. those strains were not in the exposition. He's not repeating the exposition at all. He's tricked us. He skipped the repetition of the exposition. Indeed, that's exactly what Mozart did. In the overture to the Marriage of Figaro, I believe Mozart telescopes the movement. He condenses it by omitting things so that it goes by faster than we had anticipated, just as a wedding day does. I don't know. None of you have probably gotten married yet, but when you do, it's the shortest day of your life. It's over with like that. And that different sense of the passage of time on an important day, I think, is well conveyed in this overture. In fact, Mozart telescopes sonata allegro form here in 3 ways. He omits the repetition of the exposition, but he also omits the development section. He goes directly from the end of the exposition to the recapitulation. And this takes us all by surprise. And before we know it, we're halfway through the recapitulation, and we don't know how we got there. There's a third thing he omits. The transition music from the exposition is skipped in the recapitulation. We go directly from the first theme in D major to the second theme of D major. So on 3 different levels, this music is going by faster than we would expect. Let's listen to the recapitulation. Did you hear that? Did you recognize that music? Do you remember hearing that before? You know what that is? That is the music from the transition in the exposition. The very music that got omitted in the recapitulation as Mozart telescoped his form. Here he repurposes it for a very different function. Remember, the whole point of a transition is to undermine the order of the home key and the first subject. That's why transition sections are so unstable and unpredictable. But the coda of a sonata allegro movement is the most stable part of the whole piece. The whole purpose of a coda is to confirm that we've reached an ending. And typically you just hear cadences over and over again. What a remarkable experience to hear music that in one context was destabilizing, now affirming. It really is remarkable.